Thank you, T.H. If you're confused about all these Monahans, the recipient of this award, Thomas M. Monahan, is the grandfather of this one, the father of me. I'm just an uncle of his. And there are more Monahans in this crowd tonight than I dare to think about. They haven't been behaving too well so far. I'm hoping things will get better. I'm going to just try to give you a little bit of the background. Tommy spoke about his record, and he's a very wonderful and very productive coach, there's no question about it. But this guy came from a little town up in Shelburne Falls, Massachusetts. Did somebody come from there? He went to high school at a place called Arms Academy. It was the local high school. It sounded good, but that was the local high school. He had to give up after his sophomore year in order to drive a bakery wagon in order to help support the family. But he went back to that high school, and you could do it, I guess, in those days, to coach the high school football team. He must have done pretty well because a gentleman down here in Bristol, through an intermediary, heard about his record up there. This gentleman's name was, why should I forget that? It'll come to me. Mr. Rockwell's the guy. Thank you very much. Mr. Rockwell asked about him and then brought him to Bristol. Mr. Rockwell was the fellow who owned New Departure. He put him to work in the New Departure building and had him coach the New Departure All-Stars. Later on, he was the coach of the Bristol West Ends. He was, he must have had a pretty good record there too, because the Bristol High School thought it would be a pretty good idea to put him on the rolls. Of course, he had no education. So what they did was to hire him as a director of athletics and also the coach of the baseball, football, and basketball teams. In the early days, he would work at New Departure until about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and they would release him so he could coach the high school teams. But once they hired him, then they brought him down to the high school, and that was his full-time job. His record, Tommy has mentioned. He went on to take on various other jobs. He was in charge of all of the playgrounds in the city of Bristol for many years. He became a probation officer at the request of one of the judges. And through it all, and of course, received many awards from the state sports writers and from the Coaches Association. So it kind of proves that regardless of your academic ability, and he always regretted the fact, and he always put a high sense to the college degree, but for a fellow with his background, obviously, he did pretty well. So I'm pleased here tonight to represent the family and to accept this award on his behalf.